Imagine for a moment that time opens before you like a vast portal, a leap not of centuries, nor of millennia, but of millions of years. For a million years ago, the Earth was not the planet we know today. The landscape was at once wild, primitive, and grand, a stage in constant transformation where the forces of nature slowly shaped the world that would one day shelter human civilization. The atmosphere was heavy with dust, heat, and humidity across different regions. Dense forests stretched over some continents, while wide, open savannas were beginning to expand in others. Mountains roared, rivers redrew their courses, and volcanoes cast fire upon lands still being formed. The planet was in the midst of a geological metamorphosis, like a titan breathing, moving continents upon restless tectonic plates. And in this epic setting, the creatures roaming the earth were as grand as they were enigmatic. Mammals of immense proportions dominated prairies and forests, while sharp-toothed predators ruled with cunning strength. There were no cities, no human language, no domesticated fire. Yet life pulsed in every corner. Birds cawed across the skies, ancestors of cats and dogs prowled in the shadows, and colossal herbivores roamed the plains in vast herds. That it was in this remote time that the very first steps of our story began to be traced. Not the steps of humanity as we know it, but of our most distant ancestors, bipedal creatures who, for the first time, dared to rise on two legs. They were the Australopithecus, pioneers of the evolutionary path that would one day lead us to reason, to culture, and to writing. They lived in small groups, vulnerable before beasts, yet they possessed something that already set them apart: the spark of adaptation. They knew how to use their hands not only to survive, but to explore, to touch, to experiment. Their eyes watched the world with an instinctive curiosity, and their legs carried them farther and farther, forging paths between forests and open fields. Life for these beings was harsh, defined by the daily struggle for food and the constant threat of predators. Days were spent searching for roots, fruits, seeds, and insects. Nights brought the fear of darkness, where the roar of great felines reminded them of their fragility. They had no weapons, no safe shelter other than the unity of the group. And yet, in the starlit silence of the African night, there already existed the seed of humanity, the capacity to endure, to learn, and to persist. The planet itself was a living organism in motion. The African savannas, cradle of humankind, expanded as the climate changed, forcing human ancestors to leave the forests and adapt to open terrain. That simple shift shaped evolution. The need to walk long distances, to raise the head high to spot predators from afar, to unite as one to survive. What seemed like a mere adaptation was, in truth, the beginning of Earth's greatest journey. The rise of humankind 0.4 million years ago. The world was brutal and unforgiving, yet also grand and fertile. Every tree, every current of water, every shadow held both danger and opportunity. It was on this epic, wild, and magnificent stage that the first chapters of human history began to be written. Not with words, but with footsteps. Footsteps that would echo through time until they reached you, here and now, heir to a saga that began long before the first civilizations, long before fire, long before the very idea of history. This was the world of 4 million years ago, a planet in transformation, where humanity's destiny was still no more than a spark. But it was there, among beasts and forests that the future began to awake. The world of 4 million years ago was more than just a distant chapter of Earth's history. It was the crucible where the foundations of humanity were forged. Every shifting plate beneath the ground, every storm that swept across the plains, every predator lurking in the shadows, and every ancestral step across the savanna was part of an immense story. The story of survival, adaptation, and transformation in that vast and primal age. The earth itself was both teacher and adversary. It demanded resilience, and only those who could endure its challenges would carve a path forward. The early ancestors of humanity were fragile compared to the beasts surrounding them. Yet within that fragility lay their greatest strength, the ability to learn, to change, and to adapt. Unlike the towering mammals or the fierce predators of the time, they did not rely on brute force alone. Their power was subtler, hidden in their curiosity, their cooperation, and their capacity to imagine new ways to survive. From the dense forests to the endless grasslands, these first hominids learned to see the world differently. Where other creatures saw only prey or predator, they began to perceive opportunities. A branch could be a tool, a stone could be a weapon, and the unity of a group could mean survival against impossible odds. It was the dawn of something no other creature on Earth possessed: foresight. And as the savannas stretched wider and climates shifted, the destiny of humanity was written step by cautious step. Each journey in search of food, each glance to the horizon, each struggle to protect their kin was a silent proclamation: we will endure. These beings did not yet know fire, nor words, nor the power of story, but they were already writing the prologue of human history with their very existence. When we look back at that distant time, it is easy to see only the rawness, the danger, the hardship. But if we look deeper, we find something more profound: the seed of greatness. For in the vulnerability of those first ancestors lay the origins of resilience. In their uncertainty lay the birth of curiosity, and in their fragile unity lay the spark of civilization. 0.4 million years ago, Earth was untamed, unforgiving, and magnificent. It was not a world built for comfort, but for transformation. And out of that crucible, humanity emerged, not fully formed, not yet the builders of cities or the seekers of stars, but as wanderers who dared to rise and walk into the unknown. That is the legacy of that time, a reminder that from the harshest beginnings come the strongest roots. The ground they walked, the dangers they faced, and the skies they gazed upon were the first steps in a journey that continues to this very day. We, their distant descendants, carry within us the echo of those ancient footsteps, the unyielding will to endure, to adapt, and to dream beyond the horizon. The story of 4 million years ago is not just a tale of the past. It is the origin of who we are. It is the proof that from dust and fear, from silence and struggle, a spark can rise, a spark that would grow into fire, into knowledge, into civilization, a spark that would one day light the path of humankind.